Hello, everyone. Good morning and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Steve Burridge and I work as an account development manager at Springer Nature. I'm delighted to say that I'm joined today by Thomas von Larcher, who works as a senior managing editor for Springer Nature. And during today's session, Thomas will give some great advice on how you can craft standout research papers. Before we start though, I just wanted to cover a couple of quick housekeeping points. The session today is being recorded and tomorrow you'll receive an email with a link to the recording and the slides from today. Also, this webinar is the first in a series. Over the course of May and June, we'll be hosting another 7 sessions on a variety of topics, including one on AI and scientific writing, and another where we look at real-world examples of accepted and rejected submissions. All of these sessions are designed to be short, sharp, and full of useful information. I'll share more info about the upcoming webinars towards the end of the session today, and there'll also be information about these in the email you receive tomorrow, so please do keep an eye out for that. One final housekeeping point before we get started. I mentioned before that we've designed these sessions to be short and sharp, so the presentation today will last a maximum of 30 minutes. That then leaves plenty of time at the end for Q&A. So if you do have any questions as we go along, just type them into the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen, and then we'll come to them at the end of the webinar. Okay, with that, I think we're ready to start. So I'd like to formally hand you over to our speaker for today. Thomas von Larcher is the in-house senior managing editor of Discover Applied Sciences at Springer Nature. Thomas is based in our Berlin office in Germany and has been with Springer Nature for 7 years, having joined the company in 2018. So Thomas, over to you.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Steve. And hello, everyone. Thank you for being in this call today. Very much appreciated. So the topic of our webinar today is how to write a scientific paper. And yeah, as Steve nicely introduced me already, I can keep this short. So I joined Springer Nature in September 2018. And I received my PhD in engineering technologies in 2007. And after this, I worked as a postdoctoral researcher at the Institute of Mathematics at the Freie University of Berlin in Germany. So I was an interdisciplinary researcher, and now I'm an interdisciplinary senior editor at Springer Nature. So this webinar today is the first of a series of webinars of different topics. And we start today, and here you see a list of our upcoming webinars in this series, hosted by my dear colleagues. And I can only encourage you to join all the other short webinars as well, because they cover really interesting and important topics in research publishing. So if you haven't registered, please register after this webinar for the others as well. So, okay, today, what is in for you? How to write a scientific paper. We will go through different parts. Here we start with what makes a great paper, the criteria. We will, I will talk you through the elements of a writing style. I will talk you through titles and abstracts. I will go with you from introduction to conclusion, section-wise. And last but not least, I will also talk you through how to present your data, how to best present your data. And as Steve already said, after my presentation, we will have enough time, plenty time for the Q&A. So before we start with the presentation, here's a question for you. So Steve, can you please start the vote here? May I ask you to answer this short question? So how many articles have you already published in peer-reviewed journals? So I give you time to make your selection here, to make your choice. Okay, and here are the results. Oh, this is a nice mix. Okay, so some of you have already published more than 10 peer review papers in peer review journal, which is really nice. And the majority has published between 0 and 5 papers, which is nice. So I hope you will enjoy this presentation. So thank you, Steve. Okay. Yes, so here we go. So first of all, why you should publish? Because you should publish because your research is not complete until it has been published, right? So you want to present your results, your new ideas. You would like to exchange your ideas. You would like to communicate with your colleagues, with your peers, and not only in the in your office and in your department, but also worldwide, right? It's also important for you to publish your research um, when you would like to apply for grants and research funding. So, and why you should publish in English? Because English is currently the international language of science, right? So it fosters collaboration, and scientists want to hear from other scientists from all over the world. So, and Springer Nature offers different author services, language editing services. Some of them are free, some of them are not free. So please check out the website mentioned here um, to get an idea of our author language editing services for authors. Okay, let's move into the main content of the presentation. What makes a great paper? And we will go through the different sections, introduction to conclusions. We will talk about titles and abstracts. So your goal is, or should not only uh, be to be published, but also to be widely read in your field, right? It is in this way that you have impact and influence the advancement in your research field. And when your papers have more impact, they will be highly cited. And with this, you will build your reputation worldwide. Okay, when you drafting your manuscript, your paper, you are telling a story and trying to transport your key message to your readers, right? The whole world of your manuscript revolves around getting your message across to readers. And most of your readers have 4 key questions. Why did you do the study? What did you do? What have you found? And how does a study advance the research field? And you should ensure that the structure of your manuscript is done in a way to answer the key questions of the readers. And this is the purpose of your manuscript. So, and this leads to the IMRED structure of your manuscripts, that is introduction, methods, results, and discussion. And now we will go through the key sections of your manuscripts. So, starting with the introduction. In the introduction, you highlight why does your research need to be done, right? So, recommendation is to start off broad and then narrowly guide your readers to the specific aims of your study. And the benefit of doing this is you are trying to capture a broader audience to attract them about your research as an author, and that would lead to more impact. So you start with with introducing your topic, your research topic, right? So, and here you should be mindful how broad your audience is. So if you target a worldwide audience, you should introduce your research topic and your study from the international perspective. And if you target a more specialized audience, you should you can introduce your topic more focused. So, and please keep in mind, if you target a broad audience, your readers may not be familiar with the topic. So then you should introduce the concept more broadly and more generally. And after introducing your topic, you should tell your readers what is known about the topic. And this is, in fact, the literature review, right? And the majority of the introduction. And here you demonstrate or you have the chance to demonstrate your expertise and knowledge. And with this, you can establish confidence and greater trust in your work. And after this, you should describe the key your key question here. So what is not known? You should clearly describe the problem that you are trying to solve. And so here you highlight the knowledge gap, you identify the research problem, and what is this? This is the motivation. So you're motivating your readers to take a deeper look into your investigation, into your study, right? And to read your article. So in this subsection here, what is not known, leads to the specific aim, to the specific aims of your study. So the specific aims should directly be trying to answer, or in the best way, to solve the problem highlighted in the what is not known section. All right, so the next section is the methodology. So here you should highlight what did you do. So write clearly and concisely so that someone can follow how you did your research and can reproduce this. You have to emphasize what you have done. And why is this important? Because researchers and readers in your field may want to reproduce and replicate your findings, right? And this would create confidence, or because of this, you should create confidence in your methodology. So help readers to believe, to trust your findings, which they would like to build upon then, right? Also, this section is especially relevant for the peer review process. So for your peer reviewers looking through your submission. So it is very important to have transparency and fairness in the methods section. Why? Because reviewers will evaluate this section very carefully. If they find flaws in techniques that could invalidate your data and hence invalidate your results, this could lead to a reject. And this is what you don't want. Okay, so what you should describe in the methodology. So you should describe who or what was used in the study, samples or participants, materials, etc. You should describe how you did your study, right? Describe special techniques you applied, describe specific conditions, controls, etc. And finally, you should describe how you analyzed your data, which kind of software, which quantification methods or tests you did. And if you are unsure how to describe the statistics, you can also consult an expert and asking them to help you to write or to describe your statistical tests that you have done. All right, and after this, now the results section. So here you highlight what you have done. And again, please present the results clearly and carefully. Highlight what you have found. important here is to keep a logical presentation of your idea. So what does that mean? It may not be chronologically how these results were identified, how your results were identified during your study, but the logical way to present them to the readers, especially to readers who are not yet familiar with what the research study all is. So you should start with the initial observation. So here you should try to attract interest and what you have been able to find. And then you should expand the initial observation. So you start a characterization, right? Look into this in another context. Try to understand it mechanistically, for example, right? And finally, you should let the readers know why is that useful? Why is your results, your result or your development going to be applicable? What is the practical applicability? This is particularly important for applied research journals rather than basic research journals, right? So here you should demonstrate the usefulness. So as an example, imagine you as an author has developed a new membrane for water treatment. So the initial observation here, you start with how was that membrane fabricated? And then you expand the initial observation. So you need to describe the physical and chemical characteristics of the membrane under different conditions, right? Temperature, pressure, etc. And finally, you should demonstrate the efficacy in removing particulates or contamination, right? Demonstrate the usefulness and the value of your development and your finding. All right. So, and then the last section is the discussion, right? So in the discussion, you highlight how does your study contribute to the field? How does your findings advance the field? And the discussion is like the opposite of the introduction, right? So in the introduction, we started off broadly and narrowly guide your readers to the specific aims. Here is it's the opposite, right? You emphasize how the specific study is going to be of interest to the broad audience that you capture. And you start with a summary, what you find, what you have found. So summary, research problem, briefly describe the study design, and then summarize your key findings. So, and then you start the interpretation of your findings. So you discuss the results here. And if the results were not what you were expecting, this is where you can provide insights or speculations as to what happened or what you could have done differently. And this could be real fun, right? Speculating. So, also, please describe any limitations very carefully. It is very important to mention limitations of your study or during your limitations that you were faced with during your study. And what you should also keep in mind is you should also present negative results or unexpected results. This is also very important. Avoid what we call a selected reporting bias, right? So do not leave out negative results and present all results. So you should never leave out negative or unexpected results. All right, and then finally, the main conclusion of your of the discussion or of your study. So conclusions, it depends on the journal. Sometimes its conclusion is a different and an extra section. Sometimes you can put the conclusion into the discussion, and then the header would be a discussion and conclusion, right? The chapter. And it depends. And yeah, here in the conclusions, you should emphasize the value of your study for specific applications, right? Or for a specific audience, like academics, policymakers, educators, etc. Highlight why the study is useful. And keyword here is also call to action. So motivate your readers to put the information, the new information that you have found into action, right? This is important for your reputation. All right, so here, this is the overall logical structure, kind of a recap, what I've just said. So this is what we call an hourglass approach here. We start broadly with the introduction, narrowly guide the readers. Then we have the methods, objectives, the results. And then during the discussion, you again broaden your perspective, right? To the you expand your perspectives to the broad audience. And in every section, in each section, please take the reader's perspective, right? This is very important when you are preparing and drafting your manuscript. Take the reader's perspective. Every sentence, is this really useful, right? Or is this blah blah? Is this really useful information? So, and do not forget, your ideas are complex, right? And what makes you an effective communicator is clearly explaining complex ideas to your reader in a concise way, right? All right. So this is another recap slide, but it also includes what comes next. So we have, I talked you through the most important sections: introductions, methods, results, and discussions, as well as conclusions. But of course, your manuscript has also a title, an abstract, keywords, references, acknowledgements, and maybe supplementary information, right? And title and abstracts are equally important. And I will talk you through title and abstracts and my ideas about title and abstracts in a second. And acknowledgements might be also important. My tip here, my advice is acknowledge anyone who provided intellectual assistance, technical help, or special equipment or material, right? Good. So, yeah, as I said, titles are equally important. So why? Because the people going online to their research engines of interest, they see a list of titles, right? And if your title is not grabbed, it will be skipped. Your article will be skipped, will be not recognized, right? So your title needs to get the reader's attention. So keep the title as short as possible and to the point. It must reflect the content of your paper. So your title, this is what I think at least, should include what's important, right? The key message, your key findings. And also should include some keywords for indexing. Why? Because scholarly databases, they use both titles as well as keywords for their keywords databases. And as I said, keep your title as concise and precise as possible. What you should avoid is questions in the title. Sometimes authors think, oh, I have to create a clever title, right? But keep in mind, clever titles are only clever for the author, but mostly confusing for the rest of the world, right? So communicate your key message as efficiently and effectively as possible. Questions don't do that. Yeah. Sometimes being too vague, right? Or avoid this. Sometimes a title starts with an investigation of or a characterization of. So yeah, we know you're going to publish or you have published a research article, right? We know something was investigated, right? So be more specific. And also abbreviation acronyms, right? Keep in mind your audience. If you target a broad audience, this audience may not be familiar with specific acronyms, right? For specialized journals and specialized target audience, abbreviations may be okay. So a nice strategy to create your title is, or to write an effective title is, emphasize what is important. So for example, a variable was measured, right? Then what was measured? What is the key outcome? And finally, the sample, right? From where the outcome comes from. All right, abstracts. So the believe it or not, the first thing, or maybe the only thing, your readers read is the abstract. Why? There are too many papers. Your readers don't have enough time. Is it as simple as that, right? So most researchers only skim through the abstracts of manuscripts. So, and in your abstract, you have to emphasize why is your topic important, right? Why is it significant, and for whom? Also describe the relevancy of your research. My advice is 300 words max for an abstract, right? A single paragraph, 100 to 300 words, and that's enough. So, yeah, as I said, the first impression of your paper is in the abstract, and then the author, the reader will decide to look into the article or not, right? So you should include a summary of why did the study need to be done, what did you do, what did you find, and how will the study advance the field? Why is it, what is the value of your study? And most of the abstract should focus on your key findings, right? So what did you find? And for the rest, for the other parts, 1 or 2 sentences only. Don't try to mix or to introduce the topic in the abstract. The abstract should be a summary of your article, nothing more. Okay, so the next part here is advice how to draft your text, right? So my advice is keep the text precise and concise as possible, right? No blah blah, no irrelevant information. Keep in mind the purpose of scientific writing. Avoid language that is emotional or flowery. Avoid redundant language. And yeah, as I said, right, do not integrate common phrases that do not have any added value, right? Take the reader's perspective. Do not create your own acronyms, and please use professional language, right? So potential pitfalls that I have seen in manuscripts that came on my desk. So often the format is not appropriate to facilitate the review, right? So no line numbers, no spacing between sections, no page numbers, etc. Corresponding author is not highlighted. This is also a no-go. The author email address cannot be verified. What should we do as a publisher? The abstract is not telling the story of the whole article, right? In the introduction, we often see an enumeration of too many references, and citing information is packed, right? Like 20 to 30 or so. This is not reasonable, right? It's not reasonable that all citations make identical statements, right? Discussion of results is missing. Grammar and orthographic rules mistakes, self-citations is also a problem, right? And also, yeah, ethical issues, plagiarism. Please do not take or simply copy and paste text from other sources, right? This would lead to a desk reject. I promise you. I assure you. Ensure that your research goal is clearly described, right? And figures, yeah, we will come to figures in a minute. Here are some examples, real-world examples, right? Odd phrases. So I have seen these phrases in manuscripts. So, and this is not good, right? Okay. So yeah, data presentation, short. So a picture, this is a motto, right, of this section. A picture is worth 1,000 words. So display items, so figures, tables, data plots, maps, etc., right, are often the quickest way to communicate large amounts of complex information that would be complicated to explain in the text. So my advice, ensure your display items can stand alone, right? Present well-designed display items. It is worth the effort, right? Researchers would like to look at your display item, your figure or a table without reading it as text, right? And well-designed display items can also help to attract readers and hold their interest to your work. And readers may be more likely to trust your result and your interpretation of your results. Excuse me. So common mistake here is to restate much of the data from a table in the text of the manuscripts, right? You should use the text to summarize what the reader will find in the table or in the figure, or mention one or two of the most important data points. So what is the key message of your figure, of your table? What is the take-home message, the one thing that people should remember? Right, and it is usually much easier to read data in a table than in a text. Okay, so for figures and tables, right? Please make sure that your legend is clear and concise, as well as the caption. Access labels. Please include access labels. Clear units. Labels as well is very important, and all elements found in the figures must be identified in the caption, right? And similarly for tables, ensure a clear and concise legend and caption. Divide your data into categories for clarity, and ensure sufficient spacing around columns and rows. Okay, if you have complex figures or tables, you may also write the results in subsections, right? So this is up to you. Most important here is one information at a time. Don't overwhelm your readers with information, right? It is easier for readers to understand complex information. And don't forget, it is complex information for your readers. When complex information is presented one bit at a time, right? Avoid information overload. Okay, supplementary information. Yes, we encourage you to add supplementary information. It could add dimension. Please check the journal-specific submission guidelines for to get an idea how to submit your supplementary information. And each journal, at least each Nature journal, has journal-specific submission guidelines available on the journal's website. Right, here are two examples. And yeah, before you submit and before you draft your manuscript, please look through the submission guidelines. You will find also templates, LaTeX, non-LaTeX templates, how to format your manuscripts, right? So as an appetizer for the upcoming webinars, just one quick slide for about using AI and large language models. So our philosophy is that large language models do not currently satisfy our authorship criteria. Why not? Because attribution of authorship carries with it accountability of the work, which cannot be applied to large language models, right? And yeah, also just an appetizer for the next webinars, for the upcoming webinars, impact. Impact in your impact in your research field is not equal to the impact factor of the journal, right? Of a journal. So you should not try to, you should not necessarily try to submit your work to a high impact factor journal, right? Remember, impact is your impact and influence in the field. All right, so that was pretty much it. So I will be back here in the webinar series in the in the final webinar when we will talk about real-world examples of accepted and rejected submissions. So we will have plenty of time there to discuss specific examples or answer your questions. Yeah, and with this, don't forget, your goal is not only to be published, but also to be widely read in your field. And with this, I stop here. So thank you very much. And back to you, Steve.
Yeah, thank you very much, Thomas, for that really excellent presentation. As Thomas said, now's the time for questions. We've already got an awful lot in the Q&A box, so we'll get to as many of those as we can right now. But if you do have any other questions as well, please do type away. Okay, Thomas, the first one that came in was quite a basic question to ask, but it'd be a good place to start. So someone asked, what is a grant paper? Is it a paid for paper?
A grant paper? Yeah, I mean, when you receive research funding, you sometimes you will have a budget to publish your results as well, right? So when you apply for a grant at a third-party institution, like in Germany, the Deutsche Forschungsgemeinschaft, right? Then you will have budget to publish your paper in, for example, open access journals.
Super, thank you, Thomas. A question from Sophie as well. She asked, when should one use the active or the passive voice when writing?
Yeah, good question. There's no one size fits all answer, Sophie. I'm sorry. So I would prefer a passive voice. for me, or to me, it is easier to read an article when the author uses passive voice.
Thank you, Thomas. A question from Theodomir as well, who's asked, what could be the reasonable length of the introductory part of the paper?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the topic, right? To me, it would be reasonable, or an introduction is a good introduction when I have a clear idea about the author's study and I have enough information what has been done previously and what has been published previously, before I go to the next sections, right? So I think max 3 pages for introduction, because your research paper ideally have not more than 12 pages. However, it depends, right? Or if you have very complex information to share, then you can also easily take 20 or have 20 pages for an article. But take the reader's perspective. Who would like to read an article with 30 pages, right?
Thank you, Thomas. Another question for you. I'm currently writing a scoping review. Will the introduction have the same type of introduction as you mentioned? I think the goal of the scoping review is to present what is done in a specific area and should not be presented in the intro.
Yeah, I completely agree. A scoping review is different. And I suggest to reach out to the to look into the journal submission guidelines, because the journal submission guidelines have examples for research articles and review papers as well, right? And for the other article types that the journal accepts, right? Yeah, this is my advice. And if in doubt, please do not hesitate to reach out to the editor of the journal and discuss with the editor, right?
Thank you, Thomas. Another question here from Gary, who's asked, what are your comments about self-plagiarism? Having spent lots of time working out how to best describe an aspect of your work clearly and succinctly, is it acceptable to repeat that description if you feel that it cannot be improved?
That's a very good question, Gary. Of course, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? However, if you use text sequences of your own previously published papers, for example, in the methodology, if the methodology is the same or whatever, please make a clear comment, or start the section with a clear comment saying most information or the following information was already published in paper reference blah blah blah, and for the sake of completeness we repeat and summarize the previous paper here in the following paragraphs. Transparency and fairness, that's the key, right?
Thank you, Thomas. Another question that's come in here from Diletta, who's asked, I have a question regarding the funding statement. If I'm submitting a manuscript based on new analysis conducted on data collected during a past research project that has already concluded, should I still include the grant number of that original project in the funding statement or not?
Yes, you should. Because as far as I know, your funders, it is mandatory to include the funding numbers, right? This is mandatory. This is mandatory advice from your funders, right? And you should do this. And there's space. There's a special section in the manuscript template where you can mention the funding number. And if not, you can put this information into the acknowledgements.
Thank you, Thomas. Another question here from Gary, who's asked how much self-citation is regarded as being reasonable, provided that it's directly on topic.
Well, this is not an easy question, or the question might be easy, but the answer is not. um, I can only say, Gary, it depends. If it is reasonable, there no, the reviewers and the editor will acknowledge it, and will and your manuscript will pass the review process. If in doubt, again, um, make a statement, make a comment in the manuscript at an appropriate place, and again, transparency and fairness.
Thank you, Thomas. A question that's come in here from Yogesh as well, who's asked, can you also focus on the disciplines of social science, like political science? Does the publication process for social sciences differ in comparison to other fundamental sciences?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not working in social sciences here, but in applied sciences. The publication process is very similar. However, the structure of the manuscript is not, right? So I can only recommend to look through the journal submission guidelines of your social sciences journal, and also look through articles already published in your specific journal, because then you get an idea of the most prominent structure of articles in that journal.
Thanks, Thomas. A question here, isn't the application section, which was here suggested for the results, isn't that more appropriate in the discussion because it goes beyond presenting the results?
Yeah, it's not easy to to separate results and discussion, I know, but you should try to first describe your results, your findings, precisely in the results section. You can also speculate about unexpected results or what you could have done differently, but interpretation and discussion of your results. So putting your results into context, into a wider context, and why are your results important for other scientists, policymakers, educators, etc. This is part of the discussion, right?
Thanks, Thomas. We've had a couple of questions around this subject, actually. Do you have any tips to train and advance your English scientific writing for somebody who is not a native speaker?
Yeah, this is a good question. So, first of all, you can go to the Springer Nature website. You will find plenty of information about our language services. However, if you would like to train or be trained how to format your text and how to improve your language style, I can only recommend to contact a colleague or an expert in your field and ask them to look through your text and make suggestions how to improve it. This is learning by doing, actually. And however, you should not hesitate to submit your manuscript, even if your English is not perfect, right? I mean, we know we are all not all of our authors are native English speakers, right? I mean, I'm German, right, as you can hear. So yeah. However, if you consulted an expert or a colleague has helped you in drafting your manuscript, this does not necessarily lead to co-authorship, right? It's better to acknowledge the help in the acknowledgement section. But this will also be part of our research integrity webinar, I guess.
Thank you, Thomas. Another question for you here. How much can you speculate in the discussion, and how much should it be based on previous studies, especially when the results disagree with the previous findings?
Wouldn't this be a perfect situation, a good problem to have? When your findings do not support previous findings, then the floor is open for any speculation. As long as your speculation is reasonable, I mean, this is research. This is really, this is research, right? New findings, unexpected results, and then we can only speculate. Why does this happen, right? Why did this happen? So as long as you don't write nonsense, you're free to speculate as much as you want. But don't bore your readers with your speculations.
Thank you, Thomas. Another question for you here. What is the most efficient way to write a paper as a team? How much should the lead author drive the writing and paper narrative?
Yeah, for my former scientific career, I know that supervisors, even if they don't contribute to my research or to my paper, when I have the final draft, they say, "Oh yeah, please put me on the list of authors." And I was a bit thinking, no, this is not really okay. I can put you in the acknowledgements if you like, but yeah. So if I see manuscripts with let's say 10 authors, there must be a good reason to have 10 authors for a manuscript of 10 pages, right? So be careful. And we have rules, right? And guidelines. You can find them on the Springer Nature websites as well. Authorship is an issue for publishers, right? And I think authorship will also be a topic in the upcoming webinars. Maybe also in the research integrity.
Yeah,
webinar.
absolutely. Thanks, Thomas. Another question here from Stefano, who's asked, how do we select from the huge amount of literature that's available today? When is the good moment to stop? I noticed there has been the tendency to quote in the reference list as many studies as possible. Is that the correct way to do it, or do we have rules?
I'm not sure if I understand the question in detail, but it's about the number of references, right? So advice is only cite papers that really contribute to your to your paper, right? Don't cite our articles that yeah have nothing to do with your study, right? However, sometimes it's reasonable to have 60 reference citations in the or references in the reference list, right? And sometimes it's it depends on the topic. Sometimes it's enough to have 12 or 20. It depends. So sorry for that vague answer.
Thanks, Thomas. Another question for you. If I have an anomaly on a graph, would I need to bring it up in the discussion of the results, or could I ignore it as it did not fit the trend of the other plotted points?
This is about unexpected results, I guess. Any results, expected or even unexpected, should be added to the results sections. It is a result, right? And you can start a speculation in the results section, but again, interpretation and and yeah, putting the unexpected results into context, into a wider context, this should be go to the discussion section. But any result should go into the results section.
Thank you, Thomas, for clarifying that. Another question for you regarding the mentioned editing services. If a manuscript undergoes professional language editing or scientific writing assistance, does this warrant authorship? Furthermore, does it make a difference whether the editing was performed by a human expert, a word processor, an AI plugin in the word processor, or an LLM like ChatGPT?
Yeah. So first of all, as I said, any LLM cannot go on the list of authors, right? So you should mention that you have used large language models or artificial intelligence tools to improve your text in the acknowledgements or in the method sections. This is up to you. However, you should, again, have transparency and fairness, right? Create transparency and fairness. And professional language services, I mean, they are paid for their service, right? So you don't have to put them on the list of authors, but you can also acknowledge their service in the acknowledgements if you like.
Thank you, Thomas. Another question here. Someone has said well, Alfred has said he's suspicious about speculation in a summary. You mentioned speculation as part of the summary. Can you just go into a bit more detail as to why you accept speculation in a summary?
What summary? um, yeah, sorry if I was saying that. I don't think that speculation in a summary is reasonable. However, for example, in a paragraph, sorry, in the abstract, it might be useful to open a perspective, right? When you say in a paragraph, we have done, we have found a special variable and or a special parameter, and we are not sure, or we will, you can say, we will speculate if this result is coming from a fluid mechanics behavior or this is artificially generated or so. You can say that in a summary in the abstract because it opens a perspective for the reader what to expect, and maybe it creates interest to the reader, right? When they say maybe you have another scientist that is um, um, who is working in the same field and has also similar results and have no expectation for their results, and then they say, hey, they see here's an article in the abstract. They speculate about a possibility why this has happened. So this is of interest to me. So bottom line here, maybe one sentence speculation in the summary. That's enough.
Thank you, Thomas. We're actually at time now, but we have still got a lot of unanswered questions. Are you okay, Thomas, to hang on for another 10 minutes or so to get through some of those?
Let me see. Yeah, 10 minutes is okay.
Yeah, okay, let's do that then. A question from Maluna, who's asked, what are keywords and how can we select them?
Yeah, keywords. I mean, you will find keywords databases, right? Maybe also during manuscript submission, you will be asked to select some keywords for your work. And other than that, you can also look through published articles in your research field, and just take some keywords from previously published articles if you are unsure. I think 5 keywords is a good choice, or is a good number of keywords for a research article.
Thank you, Thomas. Another question here. What should a PhD do as first author if it is taking their supervisors or co-authors too long to check the paper draft?
Oh, good question. I mean, if you think your supervisor is yeah, or if you think you should publicly submit your manuscript as soon as possible, and you don't want to wait for your supervisor, you should. This is my personal advice. You should discuss with your supervisor. At least let them know that you will submit the manuscript now. And as I said, if they don't contribute to the work, but only supervising your, if they don't contribute to your study, but only supervising your work, for me, it is, I would question if the supervisor should be on the list of authors, right? But I know the game, of course. It's not easy, at least if you are a PhD student, can imagine. However, you can suggest putting him in the acknowledgements, and then probably you will start a discussion with your supervisor.
Thank you, Thomas. Another question for you here. Should an abstract state the results of the study?
So, sorry, Steve, come again, please.
The question was, should an abstract state the results of the study?
Yes. Yes. Of course.
Perfect. Thank you, Thomas. Another question here. As a non-English native speaker, should we write our paper in the past or the present tense?
Yeah. I recommend present tense because I mean, at least for the abstract and results and discussion. If it comes to literature review, you can also switch to past tense. But I mean, past tense for an abstract, this makes this wouldn't make sense, right? So present tense is my preferred choice, and you should be consistent, right? If you start with present tense in the section introduction, my advice would be to keep present tense and not to switch between past and present tense, because it's easier to read your article when you use just one tense consistently.
Thanks, Thomas. Another question here from Kristen, who's asked, can you please specify what you mean with writing from the reader's perspective?
Yeah, I mean, you should review your own text and take the reader's perspective. What does that mean is, please ask yourself, is this information really relevant, or would it distract the reader, or is this blah blah? So as a reader, you don't have time to read irrelevant information, right? So you want to read a paper that is up to the point and with a clear description of what you did, what you have found. And sometimes when you draft your manuscripts, you may think, yeah, this information is also very important. I have to add it to the text. But when you take the reader's perspective, ask yourself, is this information really important to understand your study that you present in your paper. So I know that some editors, when they are handling very long manuscripts, they simply ask the authors, okay, the topic is nice, I really like the paper, but it's too long, so please look through your manuscript and remove, in each section, remove 2 sentences. And I know cases that it really works, right? Then you as an author, you look through, you revise or you revisit your sections, and I'm pretty sure you will find 1 or 2 sentences that you can simply remove without creating confusion or without making your sections unreadable, right?
Thank you, Thomas. Another question here from Maya, who's asked, when do you recommend using figures as opposed to tables?
I think, personally, I think that figures, or other way, sorry, I would prefer figures rather than tables, because tables present numbers, right? But it is easier for readers to understand a figure. When you see trends, when you in a figure or in a data plot, you can also implement additional information in the figure. And it is not easy to understand tables. So I would prefer figures. And don't, please, if you present your data in a figure, so don't add another table with the same data, right? So keep it precise and concise. That's the key message. Either a figure or a table, and I would prefer a figure.
Fantastic. Thank you, Thomas. Another question here. What do you think about graphic abstracts? How do you consider them as an editor? Do they add value or not?
Yes, they add value. That's a good question or a good point. I didn't mention it. Yeah, please, if you like, feel free to add a graphical abstract. This is very helpful and can add dimension. Yeah, please do.
Thanks, Thomas. A question here from Per as well, who said there seems to be some overlap between the abstract, the introduction, and the conclusion. Could you clarify the differences?
Yeah, I mean, the abstract is a summary of the article, right? So there is overlap. This is, you cannot avoid this. For the for the conclusion and introduction, I mean, the introduction or in the conclusion, you restate your hypothesis, right? And your research question. And you also restate your major findings. And this is not part of the introduction, right? I mean, you explain in the conclusion, you explain the relevancy of the relevance of your work, the added value of your work, and you also describe future work. You highlight you highlight limitations, and this is not part of the introduction, right?
Thank you, Thomas. I think we've maybe got time for just one more question. So one for you here. Beyond the formal requirements, how should a paper be tailored to fit a specific journal? What strategies can authors use to ensure a strong fit with the journal's scope and expectations?
Yes, my advice, first, look through the submission guidelines, journal-specific submission guidelines. they contain helpful and useful information. 2, skim through articles published in that specific journal. Then you will get an idea how to structure your manuscript and what the journal would expect when you submit your manuscript.
Super. Thank you, Thomas. Yeah, we're over 10 minutes past the end of the session, so I think, bearing in mind your calendar as well, Thomas, I think we'll need to wrap things up there.
It
But
was very nice. My pleasure.
what I would say, we have got a lot of questions still that we just haven't had the time to get to. But we've got all the details of those, so we'll look at those after the session, and wherever possible, get back to people to respond to them where the questions haven't already been answered. So yeah, I just a couple of final things in terms of housekeeping that I wanted to mention as well. I'm going to just copy and paste a link to next week's webinar into the chat right now for everyone. So we've got a session next week on the benefits of research data. So please do, you can register at that link if you haven't already. So please do join us there next week. We'd love to see you. The other thing I wanted to just reiterate as well, we have had a lot of questions from people asking about the recording today, the slides. I can confirm that tomorrow you will receive an email. So look out for that with a link to the recording, a link to the slides from today, and it will also have the registration links for all the upcoming webinars as well. So please do check those out. If you haven't already registered, sign up for those other 7 sessions as well. But okay, I think, yeah, we're well over time. So I just wanted to say, firstly, a very big thank you, obviously, to Thomas for your super presentation today, Thomas. We've had lots of really positive feedback already from people saying how much they enjoyed it. So thank you for that. Thank you as well for taking the extra time to answer all the questions that came in. Thanks for getting to so many of those. And a big thank you to everyone that's tuned in today as well. We've seen lots of engagement in the Q&A section. We hope it's been really useful for you, and we look forward to seeing you on the future sessions as well. So, Thomas, I don't know if there's any closing remarks you'd like to make as well.
No, I just want to really thank you for the great questions. I really I love the Q&A really, and enjoy the rest of the day. And hope to speak soon in the upcoming webinars.
Super. Thank you, Thomas. Okay, that concludes the session for today. So thank you everyone for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day. And like I said, we hope to see you on more of these sessions in future. So thank you very much.
Thank you.